A man's greatest weakness is not fear or an inability to love. It is the habit of giving almost everything but never enough. The gestures are restrained, the affection is measured, the presence is sporadic. He offers fragments and expects gratitude as if they were a banquet. The danger is subtle. Over time you may begin to accept crumbs and call it dinner, and then you begin to believe that this is exactly what you deserve. The game changes the moment you decide to give back in equal measure, not with anger or revenge but with clarity. Because what you accept you teach. What you return reveals who you have decided to be. The first movement in this quiet transformation is the power to recognize when you are settling for less than you deserve. This moment does not arrive with fanfare. It comes as a steady pressure in the chest and a voice you tried to ignore. It is not a dramatic collapse but an absence. An absence of depth, of presence, of truth. You notice that he replies only when it suits him, that plans are made at the last minute, that kind words appear without consistent action. He is with you but not fully with you. You convince yourself that having a little is better than having nothing. That is the fiction that begins the erosion. It is not easy to see the pattern while you are inside it. The minimum often masquerades as attention, tenderness, or promises. It looks like a good morning that drifts in during the afternoon. It sounds like empty conversation that keeps you orbiting his gravity without ever landing. It whispers "I miss you" after long silences. Thirsty for proof, you interpret crumbs as proof of love when in truth they are only small gestures designed to keep you waiting where he wants you. This does not happen because you are weak or naive. It happens because human beings justify what they want to keep. Admitting you are receiving too little means admitting you invested in someone who had little to give. It means facing the fact that a castle was built on empty promises. Few people want to stand in front of that mirror. There is a difference between pain born of love and the slow self-denial of need. There is a difference between real difficulty and disrespect presented as freedom. You begin to see the difference when you allow yourself to look at the pattern, both yours and his. How many plans did you cancel to make space for him? How many messages did you erase to force him to make the first move? How many nights did you rehearse sentences because you feared being too much? How often did you shrink to fit the tiny space he offered? There is little more violent than forcing yourself into a space never meant for you. There is little more painful than using your love like currency to purchase crumbs of attention. You tell yourself you are patient. That he will change. That he needs time. But deep down you know you are delaying the inevitable. He does not give more because he never had to. People who do not keep promises continue as long as it works. While you accept the minimum will be all that appears. Awakening begins when you stop staring at him and start seeing yourself. You ask different questions. What makes me accept so little? Why do I wait for crumbs when I know I deserve more? What do I believe I gain by staying? The answers often hide inside a lack that is disguised as hope. The belief that love must be painful to be real. The illusion that you must win someone to prove your worth. All of it grows from the same soil, which is disconnection from your own identity. Someone who is connected to herself does not settle for less. Someone who knows herself respects herself. Someone who respects herself sets standards, and those standards naturally filter out anyone who offers the minimum. Connection to self does not appear overnight. It requires time, silence, courage, and patience. Most of all, it requires directing your attention inward. As long as his feelings about you matter more than your feelings about yourself, nothing will change. You remain in a dance that tilts toward him. Your hope for his validation competes with the only validation that matters, your own. Many women wake up not because of a dramatic betrayal but because of a quiet exhaustion. A spiritual fatigue pronounces that it is enough. Enough waiting, enough excusing, enough accepting. You do not need a scandal. You do not need to prove anything. You simply stop. You stop over-explaining. You say no once with clarity. You allow yourself to be unavailable. You stop settling. This is not pride. It is clarity. You were not born to be a second choice or a memory. You were born to be fully chosen. That only happens when you treat yourself that way. There is no magic in this process. There is decision, consistency, and rebuilding. Piece by piece you begin to nourish yourself from other sources. Friendships that feed you. Time with yourself. Projects that matter. Skills that remind you of your competence. As you do this, your perspective returns. The gaze that searched his signals turns inward. With this new gaze you see what no longer aligns with your worth. You stop tolerating the small things not because you are hard but because you have become honest. Being alone is better than being with someone who cannot use your presence. When you raise your standards, life responds. People see you differently. Your posture communicates clarity. You are no longer hurried. The one who knows her worth does not chase after someone who gives too little. The ability to recognize the crumbs is the turning point. It marks the beginning of a stage where you do not beg or prove. You become. What you create during this becoming cannot be taken from you. If you read this and feel tired or confused or doubtful, you may wonder if you exaggerate or if he should be given another chance. The answer does not sit with me. It sits inside you. It appears when you stop lying to yourself and see that despite effort you receive almost nothing. That feeling is your boundary knocking. It will not leave. It will wait until you open and choose yourself. Accepting too little does not make you strong. It makes you inattentive. No one thrives on dry ground. Pause, look, feel, and recognize. The moment you see clearly, everything shifts. Your life begins to be written in different words. Words you choose. Words that make sense and feed you. This is the first task of the awakening: to stop pretending that crumbs can keep a soul alive and to return to the table you set for yourself long ago. As a clinician, I have watched this pattern for years, and its mechanics are consistent across cultures and ages. The more your nervous system associates uncertainty with attraction, the more intermittent reinforcement keeps you hooked. A small text after days of silence lights up reward pathways far more than steady, consistent care. Part of the work is to break the spell of intermittent reward. You do this by replacing unpredictability with structure. Create clear routines for your own life. Keep sleep and meal times steady. Schedule social contact that is not contingent on his availability. Make your time visible to yourself so that you can see what you are choosing. Structure does not suffocate love. It suffocates confusion. You will be tempted to make speeches to him. You do not need to. You need decisions and actions. If you choose to speak, let your language be simple. I require consistency. I will not continue without it. Then stop debating. Debate is often self-abandonment dressed as dialogue. State and step. You are not trying to convince. You are stating your standard and living it. There are inner practices that amplify this awakening. Practice naming what is present rather than what you hope will arrive. Write what he did, not what you feel he meant. Practice noticing tension in your body when messages do not come. Breathe into the tightness instead of anesthetizing it. The body tells the truth first. Learning to hear it is part of coming home. The first part of this journey ends with a quiet sentence you can use as a compass. If it costs me my peace, it costs too much. That sentence is not a slogan. It is a measure. Every time you are about to pay with your peace for another fragment, remember you can keep the currency and leave the table. When a man gives only crumbs, the instinctive question is, what is wrong with me? That is the wrong door. The right door is, what does his behavior say about him? When someone offers the minimum, it reflects his emotional limits, not your worth. The problem is not that you expect too much. The problem is that he is content to give too little. Some men have never learned mature love. They were taught that affection signals weakness. They approach only as far as control can be maintained. They enjoy being desired and fear a woman who knows what she wants. These are men who cannot stay because they never learned how to stay. When they sense depth, they ration presence to maintain leverage. They give just enough so you do not leave. That is not love. It is fear wrapped in the language of freedom. It is control wrapped in charm. It forms a cycle. He gives the minimum. You give more. He feeds on your devotion. You often do not realize the game is active because you mistake longing for bond and silence for space. A man who gives only crumbs is not protecting himself. He is testing you. He watches how far you will go. He notices that you remain after 3 days without response and that you return after a week of absence. That knowledge becomes power. His behavior is deliberate in its pattern even if not consciously calculated each time. He knows when to disappear. He knows when to reappear. He senses your restlessness and your fear of walking away. In environments without consequences, permission is constant. If you accept crumbs, you will receive more of the same. As long as you explain and apologize and hope the comfort of the arrangement belongs to him. Many women attempt to earn more by shrinking their needs. They label themselves demanding and attempt to become less. They try to be more understanding and more tolerant and more available. They act as if the problem were their love rather than his lack of maturity. But a man who offers the minimum is emotionally unavailable. You cannot change that from the outside. You could be the most luminous woman in the world and still receive too little. Not because you lack value but because he lacks depth. It is as if you place a jewel in his hand and he treats it like a stone. He does not know what he holds, so he devalues it. His history may include rejection, unstable early bonds, or lessons that feelings are dangerous. None of these histories obligate you to stay. Your presence is not designed to be therapy. You can empathize without becoming a healer who sacrifices herself. If you stay to fix, you will become a caretaker of his avoidance and a stranger to your own life. The paradox is common. The man who gives crumbs does not want to lose you, yet he does not know how to keep you. He keeps you in the gray. Not close enough to commit. Not far enough to release. He will wrap you in sweet words and sudden returns. He speaks the right phrases to keep you near while avoiding the work of real intimacy. He prefers you confused in hope rather than honest in clarity, because as long as you hope, he does not need to choose. The exit begins with evidence. Stop focusing only on your feelings and observe his actions. Love is not what he says he feels. Love is what he does with your feelings. If deeds are small and inconsistent, your feelings do not need to be denied, but they must be redirected. Maybe there is love but not enough. Maybe there is connection but not health. Maybe there is desire but not reciprocity. All of that matters. You must stop romanticizing absence. You must stop interpreting silence as respect for space. You must stop treating short replies as shyness. You must stop pretending that less is livable. The fragments he offers are not your fault. What you accept is your responsibility. The most difficult skill here is discernment without self-blame. You can grieve what you wanted and still refuse what is offered. Grief is not a contract to remain. It is a way to say goodbye to a future that will not arrive. Healthy grief releases. Unhealthy guilt keeps you waiting. In therapy, we often map a partner's pattern across 4 domains: attention, accessibility, alignment, and accountability. Attention refers to whether he notices your needs unprompted. Accessibility refers to whether he is reachable in practical ways. Alignment refers to whether his actions match his stated values. Accountability refers to whether he repairs when he fails. A man who gives crumbs usually fails at 2 or more domains consistently. You cannot argue him into alignment. You can only observe and choose accordingly. There are predictable protest behaviors that appear when you begin to detach. He may increase attention briefly. He may present nostalgia. He may express sudden insights. He may offer plans that never take form. To see clearly, ask one question for each domain. Where did attention appear without prompts over the last month? How often was he practically reachable? What aligned and what did not? What repairs did he initiate? These questions are not emotional litigation. They are instruments to measure reality. The more you measure, the less you drift. Remember that some men will escalate charm the moment you become less available. This is often called the surge. It is not a transformation. It is an attempt to re-establish the old equation where he gives little and you give much. You can welcome any real change while insisting on proof over time. Words start movement. Consistency proves direction. Understanding him does not require demonizing him. He may not be malicious. He may be frightened. He may use distance because closeness exposes old wounds. You can wish him well without staying inside his pattern. Compassion is not the same as contact. The mature position is simple. You are allowed your limits. He is allowed his fears. You will not manage his fear at the expense of your life. From a psychological perspective, this dynamic lives at the intersection of attachment avoidance and intermittent reward. Avoidant patterns minimize need and maximize control. They keep partners near enough to soothe but far enough to prevent vulnerability. Intermittent reward creates powerful habits because unpredictable reinforcement imprints strongly on attention and memory. If you understand these forces, you stop taking his crumbs personally. You see them as outputs of a system he has not yet replaced. You also recognize that your own history might predispose you to tolerate ambiguity if chaos once felt like love. This awareness is not condemnation. It is a map. Maps help you leave. There comes a point where anger fades and the need to prove disappears. Exhaustion clears into a calm resolve. You stop insisting, explaining, and rescuing. You begin to give back in the same measure you receive. Not as punishment. Not as strategy. As self-respect. The mirror method is simple. You reflect reality back without distortion. If a message takes days, you reply when convenient rather than instantly. If plans are vague, you do not hold your calendar hostage. If actions and words diverge, you respond to actions. The mirror does not accuse. The mirror reports. It lets the other person meet his own pattern without you cushioning the impact. This shift reveals what your effort was hiding. You will see how much you carried. You will discover that you initiated most conversations. You mended conflict even when you were not at fault. You returned first. You gave space and held doors open. He learned that he could offer little because you would offer enough for both. When you stop supplying the surplus, he meets his emptiness. Some men cannot tolerate the mirror. They will demand your drama to avoid their own. Stay steady. Refuse the bait of argument. Your silence is not cruelty. It is a boundary. The mirror method often triggers a crisis in him. He is used to predictability, your predictability. He may return with the same crumbs wrapped in new phrases. He may say he thought about you, that he misses you, that he noticed your distance. Accept the information and wait for evidence. Real change includes consistent presence, clear decisions, and visible repair. If those are missing, the pattern remains. Your response stays the same distance. Boundaries are not walls. They are rules for your own behavior. A clean boundary sounds like this. I do not continue relationships that depend on hope rather than consistency. Or I do not schedule emotional labor around someone else's uncertainty. Or I do not argue my worth. You do not need to announce these rules as declarations. Live them. If being available to him violates a boundary, choose your boundary. Once chosen, do not negotiate it with your loneliness. Loneliness is a feeling, not a signal to return. Reconstruction begins as your attention returns to your life. Think of 4 pillars: body, mind, work, and connection. For the body, create a movement practice that you keep no matter your mood. For the mind, create a reflection practice such as journaling or a daily review where you name what you noticed and what you did well. For work, choose one project that restores your sense of competence and progress. For connection, schedule regular time with people who show up. You are not filling time. You are re-teaching your nervous system what steady feels like. Use small scripts to navigate triggers. When he appears without substance, your script can be "I am not available for inconsistencies." When he invites you into vague plans, your script can be "Let me know when details are set." When he offers nostalgia without repair, your script can be "I honor our memories and I need sustainable change to continue." Scripts keep you from improvising under pressure. They protect your clarity. There are exercises that anchor your values so you do not drift back. Write a list called "What I am no longer willing to trade." Examples might include: I am no longer willing to trade my sleep for uncertainty, my time for vague attention, my self-respect for the illusion of belonging. Read this list when you feel weak. Then write a second list called "How I will know I am honoring myself." Include simple observable behaviors like: I return calls to people who show up. I tell the truth quickly. I let silence be silent. These are small but powerful acts of self-trust. Trust is rebuilt through kept promises to oneself. You may worry that mirroring and boundaries are cold. They are not. They are fair. Fairness means giving as much as you receive and staying as much as the other stays. It means releasing what does not reciprocate and deepening what does. When your life is fair to yourself, you stop trying to convince anyone. Convincing belongs to the era of Crumbs. If he chooses to grow, he will do more than speak. He will make time without being asked. He will initiate repair and follow through. He will be reachable. He will tolerate the discomfort of consistency. He will align words with actions across weeks and months. Do not celebrate day one changes with lifetime access. Let time reveal direction. If he does not grow, you will already have grown. That is the victory within your control. A final practice is to reframe the story you tell yourself about this season. Many people call it failure. In truth, it is formation. You learn to feel the difference between attention and investment, between desire and devotion, between words and presence. You learn that love without respect is exhaustion, that passion without reliability is confusion, and that potential without action is a mirage. These lessons do not close your heart. They educate it. An educated heart chooses well. If you find yourself tempted to relapse into the old dance, ask 3 questions. What in me is being neglected when I long for his crumbs? What am I postponing in my own life while I analyze his behavior? What would I do with this hour if I believed I was already worthy of full love? Then do that thing. Move your feet in the direction of your own life. Momentum heals. You may still love him. Loving someone does not mean you must accept a structure that starves you. You can bless him from afar. You can end with kindness. You can say thank you for what was and no to what is. Gentleness is a form of strength when it is paired with a firm line. Quiet exits are not cowardice. They are maturity. This 3-part process is simple to name and demanding to practice. Part 1 is awakening to the pattern and returning to self-worth. Part 2 is understanding his limits without blaming yourself and learning to read action over words. Part 3 is mirroring with integrity, setting boundaries and rebuilding a life that is not postponed for anyone. Each part reinforces the others. As you honor yourself, you require better. As you require better, you mirror calmly. As you mirror calmly, you free your energy to build a life that attracts the kind of devotion that does not fear depth. Remember this. A man's greatest weakness is giving almost everything but never enough. Your greatest strength is recognizing almost and walking toward enough. Enough is not a demand. It is a standard. Enough is the floor of a healthy love, not the ceiling. When you live by that truth, you will not accept crumbs. You will accept partnership. That shift is the quiet revolution. It begins inside. It continues each day you keep promises to yourself. It becomes visible in your posture, your tone, your calendar, your friendships, your sleep, your work, and your peace. And it ends the cycle because people who have learned to value themselves do not make homes in places that require them to starve. In the end, you do not need louder feelings. You need clearer choices. Choose the life that treats your heart as something to be honored and kept. Choose the rhythm that does not apologize for wanting reliability. Choose the relationships where absence is not the language and presence is natural. Choose yourself not as a rejection of anyone but as the condition for any love worth keeping.